Hi everybody, welcome to Sprague Woodturning. My name is Jim. If you haven't been here before, this is predominantly a turning channel. Each and every week I teach people how to make things on the lathe. This week we're going to be working again with some of this fabulous sumac, and this is actually staghorn sumac is what this is, red sumac. And just like the first video that I did on these, I want to fill the hearts on these with a color, and then this time around I want to glue these on a form to make kind of a cool hollow form. That's the idea as it stands right now. Anyway, let's get over to the casting bench and we'll get these ready to fill the centers on them. That's pretty much all we can do today. So let's do that. All right, so last time I did this, it was a bit of a gong show. So this time around, what I'm gonna do is hot melt glue a ring around the bottom of these. And then I'm just gonna take some plastic and stick it on there, and that should keep these from leaking, hopefully. So I'd like to personally thank you all for stopping in to watch this week's video. And ever since I did the last hollow form, it's been bothering me that I had so many issues with that. So I had these smaller pieces left over, and I said, well, let's shoot another video with these. It was every time I use the sumac, it seems to be quite a popular video. So anyway, thank you all for showing up to watch this week's video. I really do appreciate it. You guys get the idea. I've got a whole lot more to do. I'll bring you back when I'm done. All right, here they are all ready to go. Plastic on the bottom. Let's mix up some resin. So to fill the pith area on these sumac pieces, I'm going to use Art Cast. And of course, the great thing about Art Cast is that we'll be able to carry on with this the next day, since it only takes 24 hours to cure. So that's really great. And if you're looking for an epoxy to achieve great color separation, Art Cast is the one for you. And just limited really by 1 inch of depth. That's the only limitation on it. And we're going to use titanium silver. That's what I'm going to put in the center of these. I know it should be interesting to see what people's thoughts are on that. But I know that I really like this color. I mean, it's very, very metallic looking. So that's awesome. And I'm hoping that, when this thing is lit from within, that it will actually show up really nicely. So anyway, once I get this mixed up, we'll be able to carry on with the pour. Don't forget them sidewalls. This is the problem with reusing your cups. Sometimes when you're trying to get the old resin out of them, you end up cracking them and then you don't realize it until it's too late, Right, bought these little reusable silicone cups off of Amazon, so thought I'd try that for this here instead of using a syringe. Now, since these are so shallow, I don't see the need to use a tube to go down to the bottom and pull out. So anyway, we'll see how we make out here. Yeah, there was a number of comments on the last time I did this, but I was trying to fill a cavity that was, 8 inches deep, I think is what it was. So putting a tube onto a syringe certainly would help in that manner, and I will do that next time for deeper pours. That actually looks like it's working pretty good, actually. Unlike the last time, I'm not seeing any resin at the bottom, so. Anyway, you get the idea. I'll just finish this one and the other one off, and then I'll bring back when we're ready to go into the pressure pot. All right, there you go. They're all filled. I'm going to throw these in the pressure pot. So far, I don't see any leaks. Any epoxy that's down is because I spilled it. So hopefully we don't have any issues tomorrow when we open the pressure pot. But anyway, we'll see you then. Hopefully you can cast these tomorrow. And yeah, I'm a little unsure of the color. I'm thinking I might regret it, but we'll have to see. Really looking for a real color pop. But we'll definitely get that with our combining color. But I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. Can't really make that call right now. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Well, good morning. Don't see any leaks. They're all filled. Hot glue and plastic is the answer, apparently. What do we got here? Yeah, you can see it's filled right to the bottom. Now, the great thing about using this, in most cases, it will just peel right off. Except for that one. Let's try this one. There. It's supposed to come off like that. And so what this will work for us, because what I'll do, we've already got hot glue on the bottom of this. I'll just put more hot glue on this and then stick it to our form. So alternatively, you probably would have to grind these down to resin, but it's in there a good 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 maybe. So anyway, I'm just going to pull these off. Here, should come off nice and easy like that. And then we'll start working on our form that we're going to glue these to. Yeah, the ones where the plastic is hard to come off, that's when the plastic was put on when the glue was really, really hot and actually melted it. Anyway, I'll bring it back when we're on the lathe. So what I'm mounting on the lathe right now is an old piece of poplar. And this goes way back to when I first got my hollowing rig and was trying it out. So I was using kind of junk wood to do that because I didn't want to waste any pieces that may be actually worth selling. So, I roughed out this poplar and it's been sitting around ever since. So it's been sitting around probably since 2012, somewhere around there. And I decided to use it for this. It does have a little bit of spalting in it, but keep in mind that this is poplar. And poplar, as a general rule, is not a very desirable wood turning wood, but it certainly will act as a perfect form for the vision that I had in my head for this piece. So the one thing about poplar is it's definitely hard to cut cleanly because it is so soft. But, doing a little bit of shear scraping there really helps the surface. Anyway, once I've got this kind of cleaned up and all the anchor seal stripped off it, and that's another thing, you really need to strip the anchor seal off this. I know I've covered this before. And anyway, we'll be able to stick these sumac pieces to it. But I just wanted to grind that little nub off so that it doesn't interfere with our design. All right, so my original plan for this was I was going to take this piece of maple burl and I was going to put it on the bottom because I didn't think that I had enough of these. And you might be surprised how much of this we're going to use. Then I was going to place it kind of all around this form, but I think that we have enough. So I'm going to disregard this and I'm just going to glue these all around this like a pin cushion, and then we'll get to the next step. And yeah, upgrade on the hot melt glue gun. And I think what I'm going to do is mostly glue the large ones on first and leave spaces between them, and then these smaller ones I'll fill them in. Hopefully it gives a more random look. Actually, you need to separate these first. I figured this would be the easiest way to try and do this. Just separate them in large and small, not so much anything in between that. And just kind of lay out the large ones and then fill in the small ones, and then hopefully it gives us a random look. I will say that the new hot melt glue gun, man, is it a lot better than that other one I was using. So as you can see, this thing's going to be considerably larger than it is already. One of the issues I had with my other one, and I seem to be using a lot more hot glue in making forms and stuff like this, and it just couldn't keep up with the demand that I was asking for it. So it's definitely an improvement over the last one I had. I know I've talked about this before about trying to do things randomly, and it's I'm still finding it challenging. I want to do straight lines. I know we've talked about this in the past. It's still a thing for me. I think maybe a lot of artisans struggle with this. Trying to make random patterns isn't necessarily an easy thing to do. Our brains aren't really geared for that, but by separating the two sizes, I think that really helps. By the way, we did have one that looks like it leaked, or maybe I just forgot to fill it. I don't know, but one out of how many? It's not so bad. So the last time I filled these centers on sumac, I used Gorilla Tape, and it was a complete failure. Anyway, it was a really cool video, and I'll link it at the end of this one in case you missed it. That's stuck on there so good it's actually breaking this apart, so I guess that's going to have to stay. Better give it some CA glue too. Old handy dandy Starbond. I know that I've said this in the past, but I don't know how you can be a wood turner and not use some sort of CA glue. I use it so regular in my turnings. And anyway, if you're interested, there is a link in the description to get 15% off your next order when you use code INLAYGEM at checkout. See, this is one of the things with poplar. Very soft, and one of the reasons why I'm using this as a mold. They just don't really make really good pieces. I mean, straight up. So as you see, I did have to break some of these off and kind of move them in different areas, but overall I didn't have to do too many, and I had just about the perfect amount to get this done. Well, there you go. It always surprises me how many pieces it takes to make something like this, and how much time it takes to make something like this is the other thing. So anyway, I'm just going to let that glue all set up, and then we'll figure out how we're going to wrap this and fill the center too. All right, well, for the last little while, I've just been going around and picking out any hot melt glue streamers that might be between these. One thing we're going to have to do is put a couple of kitchen bags on the inside of this and then fill it full of rice. And that way I can bring it out the top. And then that way we can do a pour on the outside after this is wrapped as well. So that's what we're going to do with these two kitchen bags here. They should fit. Maybe help them with a little bit of compressed air. This is rice, and if you're not familiar with why I use the rice, it's so that if there's a leak, I'll be able to turn the rice away. I could use marbles on the inside of this, and I have in the past, but if you have a leak and all that epoxy solidifies all those marbles together, then you know it's a bit of an issue getting them out. So last week I did in fact use marbles, but it's an open form, you know, so if you have a leak, it's easy to get that out. But do yourself a favor, do not put marbles inside of a closed form like this, because if you have a leak, it's going to be very hard to get them out. And I'm just going to loosely throw a cable tie around this so the rice doesn't fall out. Here's a couple of larger kitchen bags. Temporarily, I'm just going to throw another cable tie around here so I'm not fighting with this. Here is the container that we're going to use, and it's just, again, another homemade bucket. A rather large one. Throw a bit of rice in here. So I initially throw the rice in here, and then I have second thoughts about it. I'm worried about it kind of pushing in on the outside of the form too much, so anyway, I end up taking it out. So I'm just worried about, you know, if the rice is sitting in here like this, when the epoxy gets poured in, it's not going to have enough pressure to push it out. Whereas if I just set it in there, I'll leave a little bit of rice in here, but if I leave it in here, that'll push it and fill it, and then we can backfill with the rice so that it's not pushing in on the plastic. So anyway, we'll put our rice in after we get our epoxy mixed up here. And then one other thing that I want to do with this is make some sort of a big collar up here that will act as a reservoir when we pour. Just give me a second. That's just a little plastic container that the bottom's been cut out of. I think I might actually put some tape around this. It's pretty sharp and I don't want it to cut the plastic. Give me a second. There, that should actually keep that from cutting any of the plastic, hopefully. There, since that little piece of plastic actually has a little collar on it, that will keep it from actually being able to slip off. All right, I think we might be ready for some resin, so let's do that. Since we have a very large volume on the second pour, we are definitely going to be using a deep casting epoxy. And of course, Design Epoxy makes one of the best. So check them out. Link in the description. And we're going to throw some periwinkle in this. I know the last time that I'm finding that when it comes to pinks and colors that are lighter than this, you definitely have to mix them a lot stronger than, say, black or red or blue or any of these other colors. So if you're looking for the same sort of color pop, you usually have to add more pigment in order to get it. Well, I don't think you guys are going to be able to see a whole lot. But anyway, we'll pour in here. Our bag will no doubt fill up. And then once that happens, then I don't know, pull up on it a little bit to make sure that it's all filled up. And then we'll throw more rice around the edge. So this is going to be the first of, I would say, at least 2, possibly 3. 1.5 liters. Yes, sir. This is going to take a lot of resin. So now that epoxy has basically filled the bottom half of this casting, we could add some more rice. And again, that will kind of push the bag up against the sticks. And, you know, in theory, you should need less epoxy to do this. And it'll also prevent big bulges in the bag where the epoxy will be sitting. All right, that's good for now. I'll mix up another 1.5 liters and I'll be right back. Okay, here's another 1.5 liters. And for the record, I am expecting this to be a problem. I just don't think that I'm going to be able to remove all of this plastic out between all of the sticks. So we'll see, but I'm expecting to have some issues. Oh man. Where are you, level? Okay, we're about here-ish. Oh, it's going to take another one. Be right back. I see thermal cracking in your future. Okay, so before I put any more in here, where are you sitting at? I'm going to throw the rest of the rice that I do have in here, and hopefully that'll give us enough support. All right, hopefully this is the last 1.5 liters. I'm kind of skeptical though. I mean, the level is up to here, but we need a reservoir. Actually, the level is pretty much up to the top here. But you can see how the bag is nice and full now. If the rice wasn't there, this bag, of course, would just balloon out, and you wouldn't have, you know, the epoxy be pooled basically from the about halfway point down. This keeps the bag kind of tight around the branches, and in theory, you shouldn't use as much resin. All right, this is it, 3/4 of a liter. This will bring it to 5 1/4 liters. Yikes. Well, it looks good. I'm not going to put this in the vacuum chamber. I'm just going to throw this in the pressure pot. And like I said, I'll open this up tomorrow and hopefully, I don't need to add any more. And I'm hoping that it's not going to be set, because if it's set, then that means it's probably thermal cracked. But at least we'll be able to move on with the project the next day, but we'll probably have to cast it again. Anyway, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Oh yeah, this probably weighs a ton. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. How am I going to get this in the pressure pot? All right, well, I just took the top off the pressure pot. It is 2 days later. I can't remember, 3 days later maybe. So when I put this in the pressure pot, I noticed that the casting was floating within here. So, and the other thing too is the bag had really swelled out. So that's why I grabbed the chain that I use on the back of my tractor. So kind of wrap that around to push the plastic tighter up against the casting. And I needed more weight as well. Dwayne was too big in here, so that's why we're using little Dwaynes in here. And actually there's Dwayne right there. And anyway, sometimes you have to be creative on how to hold this plastic against the outside of the form and how to keep it pushed down. Anyway, we'll get this out, get it on the casting bench, and see what we're looking at. Oh yeah, we are definitely going to have to fix this. I guess, I'm not surprised. We may have also had a leak. Yeah, there's lots of areas to fix here. That should pull right out, so that's not a good sign. Yeah, it's definitely not what I was hoping to see, that's for sure. You can really see how it's pushed in these areas, so we are definitely going to have to do something about that. Anyway, let's dump this rice out and see what's going on here. Really? It leaked that bad? That is all solidified around the edge of this. Well, I hope I'm going to have more rice than that, but yeah, that would explain where our resin went to. This could be a real challenge to get this out, because I don't think the bottom of this actually has tuck tape on it, if I recall. Yeah, so as soon as I went to lift that out of the bucket when it was in the pressure pot and it was coming up with the bucket, I'm like, yep, we're in trouble here. So this took a lot to get out. This was not an easy fight. So those who enjoy these, well, you're about to see a good one. Somebody wanted to know what the rice would look like in epoxy. There you go. I'm not a fan of it. So it wasn't long that I realized that the only way that this is going to come out is if I chip away all this rice, because keep in mind that this is wrapped around those branches. So, this has got quite a grip on this. So the only way to really get it out of here is just to break all of these rice pieces up and hopefully extract it that way. It's a shame too, because I just made this bucket and I did have a purpose in mind for it, but well, it takes quite a beating. This is definitely the worst one I've ever had to deal with. That is for sure. My hope was that if I chipped enough of this away, that, you know, the bag, you know, the plastic doesn't typically stick to resin. So my thought process, as soon as I can get this down far enough, I should be able to pop this out of here. But no. Nope, that didn't work either. It's just, what do you do? I mean, all you can do is laugh at it. There's, I don't know how much rice I've lost. I've got to go and get more now, because I really do like using this rice method. I think that what happened here was, obviously the bags got cut somehow, and that probably happened when I was going in and out of the bucket with the rice. And that some of those sumac pieces must have been sharp enough to puncture both of the bags, and well, that's how this ended up being as bad as it is. Woo! Oh, yeah. I wonder why it wouldn't come out. See, if you look down in here, you see how smooth this is? That's what I was hoping for all over the outside of this. Some people are probably going to ask if I'm going to recast that rice and make it into something, and the answer to that is no. There is plastic embedded in the rice, and like I said earlier, I do not like the look of it, so unfortunately that is all trash. As far as the leak is concerned, did this resin get hot enough to melt the bag? And I believe the answer to that is no, because there's little to no thermal cracking. So it just got a leak somewhere and gradually leaked out by the looks of it. Okay, well, we've got some work cut out for us on this one. More than I was hoping I was going to have. But, what do we do here? I think what I'm going to do is put this between centers, try and find center best I can, put it between centers, and trim away, basically turn this into a ball, and then we'll know for sure how many of these are going to have to be filled. Regardless, I'm going to have to wrap this again and pour more epoxy in here. I don't really see any other way of doing this. Yeah, you could make little dams and do it that way. And I don't know, once I get it done, once I get it trimmed up on the lathe, maybe that's exactly what I'll do. But anyway, the most challenging pieces are the nicest pieces. By the way, I like my shirt. So yeah, I enlarged my logo, and as you can see, I kind of centered it on my chest. And you'll also probably see me wearing an apron. So I've been destroying all of my work shirts with epoxy. So I bought a nice apron, woodworker's apron from Lee Valley. And that way, hopefully I can preserve some of these shirts and not ruin all of them. Anyway, once you've done this for a while, you'll end up with all kinds of little pieces like this that, you know, you use for instances like this. So I've probably got about a dozen of different types of profiles and stuff to fit. And this one actually fits pretty decently. Might even be able to get away without using any glue, but I think that I'll err on the side of caution here and give it a little bit of glue, hot melt glue, keep it in place. That way we're not fighting with it. Anyway, I'm just waiting for the glue gun to warm up. Then we'll do that and get over on the lathe. Trying to rescue this. This is going to be beautiful if I can get it done. That's pretty good. I'm really surprised by that. I thought I was going to have to fight with this a lot more than this. All right, so the rescue begins. We're going to use the number 3 Hercules here from Hunter Tool Systems to whittle away at this. I figured that I would cut some of this back. These branches, I think, are 1.25 inches long. So, you know, I've got a fair bit of thickness here to work with. And it's a good thing because, you know, it's going to be something that's very hard to get centered perfectly on the lathe before you start turning it. And along the way, I may have to even alter, you know, undo the tailstock and move pieces around to have them line up a little better. I might have been able to actually finish this piece the way it was, but if you don't get things perfectly centered, then it would be probably very, very tough to do. And, you know, it would be a shame to go through this entire process and then start hollowing this piece out and then come to find out that you go through the side of it because it got too thin. So, you know, this is the main reason why I recast this piece. So what can we do in the future so that this doesn't happen again? And I think the answer to that is to cover the entire piece except for little areas in duct tape. And that duct tape would have prevented the bag from migrating in between the branches. Yeah, you're going to use a lot of it, but, you know, by recasting I ended up reusing or losing a lot of resin. So, you know, pick your battles. I think the duct tape is probably going to be cheaper. I know it's going to be cheaper. So that's going to do a couple of things. That'll keep the bag from encroaching between the branches, and it will also keep those branches from cutting the bag. And I think that that's the main thing that happened here. And, you know, here's your early indications that, yeah, you know, this is going to be a really neat looking thing. But of course, I've got all of this plastic embedded in this. So, you know, I can't recast this with this plastic in there. We're going to have to get this plastic out of there. Compressed air seems to work fairly well, but, you know, some of it is so embedded that there's no way it's going to come out unless you use some sort of a pick tool like I'm using here. And then eventually you'll see me switch to a brass coated brush in my drill to kind of give the new resin a tooth to bond to, and to also remove any plastic that may be down inside of it. Anyway, I'm just going to spend the next hour picking plastic out of here, so I'll bring you back when we're ready for the next stage. Fun. So I'm not sure if you picked up the sarcasm in my voice. It definitely was not fun at all. Anyway, it's just... it was a Monday. It's just kind of one of them, yep, here we go. There's days where I come out to the workshop and I make these pieces, and I know I'm not alone, where I'm just like, why am I out here? Why am I out here today? Like this, nothing has gone right, and I should have just stayed inside and watched YouTube all day. Anyway, there's that's a brief look at what it's going to look like in the future if we can figure this out. And oddly enough, very few of the branches had any splits in them. There was just one or two, I think. So that's that brass coated brush, and this is hands down the easiest way to, first of all, give that cured epoxy a tooth, and also get out any of the plastic that's embedded in it. Because a lot of times what happens is the plastic kind of folds over on itself, and it'll actually be quite deep into these pieces. And so, you know, it's well worth it, because I do really like this piece. I'm not going to spoil it, but you know, it's into its finishing stages now. And I'm really glad that I, you know, didn't give up on this thing. Well, I couldn't give up on it. I had too much time and money invested in it to give up on it. But I mean, it's a cool effect. I like the way it looks. And of course, we'll maybe replicate this with other branches in the future as well. But anyway, it's just frustrating at times. And I know any wood turner has had these days. I think we've all had these days. So I just want to turn this little piece down. I don't know, it was kind of messing with me. I think that I just wanted to clean up underneath of it. That was the main reason for me turning it down. And then once that's down, we're going to pull this off the lathe and again grind off that little nub on the bottom, because that will certainly cut the plastic for the second time around if you don't. And the last thing I want to do is just knock this off with the flat tip screwdriver to give us access to the inside again. Okay, we're going to do the kitchen bag method again, because I'm a sucker for punishment. I don't see much other way to do this. But what I'm going to use this time around is this plastic bowl. I'm going to put a little bit of rice in the bottom, because really I don't have a whole lot more than that. Double wrap the outside of this. And I think what I'll do is just kind of pull it up and maybe run some tape around it. And then as this fills with epoxy, it should push out, in theory. We'll see. This stuff though, that will cut the bag, so it's important to get rid of that. At least now this is all smooth and it shouldn't cut the bag, because of course that's what I think happened the first time around. It would have been ideal to use this clear plastic bowl the first time around, but the bowl was too small, so that's why I didn't use it. But of course, now that when I had this piece mounted on the lathe, I was actually measuring it off camera to make sure that it would fit down inside of here. And that, anyway, it'd just be it's a simpler casting process when you can use this, but of course you got to have the right size. All right, I think that might be it. So now I'm just going to take pieces like this and tape them up on both sides. That way they don't fill up with epoxy. And then I'll probably run some tape around the outside of this as well. So if you are going to use cable ties like I am here, just keep in mind that whenever I do use one, it's never on tight. If it's on tight, you could have some issues when it goes into the pressure pot. So that's why you should never put them on super tight. And, you know, there's the duct tape making an appearance. This has been a very effective method for me over the years. But with the first initial casting, it would have been very tough to do. So just like the first time we did this, I'm going to reinstall this collar piece, because we certainly need another pour area in order to do this. There, we can add some more tape to this as we fill this if it starts to balloon out. All right, let's mix up some resin again. So I didn't think that we were going to have a huge amount of volume here, so I thought that we were fairly safe to use the art cast. And of course that will allow us to move ahead with the project again the next day. Now, I'm lucky that I have a video record when I'm making these pieces. But of course, if you're not filming, do yourself a favor and write down what you used for pigments, the strength of them. That way, if you have issues like I had this week, then you can reference that and mix up the pigment the same strength. Ideally, it probably doesn't really matter because this was kind of spread throughout the whole casting, but it's always good to try and mix up the same strength. All right, so I understand it's going to be tough for you guys to see what's going on here. I'm thinking that I want to cut away some of this bag though because it's kind of in my way. Just give me a second here. That way we'll be able to see the outside of this better, in theory. All right, I'm hoping this is going to do it. Should, but we will see. Of course, we could have some issues with air being trapped. There's a great big bulge. I can see the line of epoxy as it's working its way down. Yeah, the great thing about having this clear bowl is that you can actually see the epoxy level. Some areas it hasn't made it to, like right here. If you're going to use your hands like I am to try and move the epoxy around, just make sure you do it very gently because you certainly can puncture the bag, and there you are hitting this reset button again. All right, I'm going to try and lift this up. Hopefully that epoxy will flow down. I probably shouldn't be doing this. Oh well, no risk, no reward. All right, here's another 400 milliliters. This will be it. I'm not doing any more than this. If it needs to be, I guess we can fix it after. I really don't want this to thermal crack, but you know, the more air cast that we put in here, well, that's exactly what may happen. All right, there you go. We got a little reservoir sitting on the top. Shouldn't really need much. I mean, it's all kind of been sealed up from the first coat. Anyway, this will go into the pressure pot. See you guys in there tomorrow. Wish me luck. Good morning. I like to see that resin sitting on the very top. So hopefully everything's been filled in. Looks like it has. No leaks that I can see. All right, let's get it out. So this time around, things actually seem to go my way for a change on this piece. It's like I said earlier, though, you know, sometimes these pieces that fight you end up being some of the nicest pieces you'll ever make. It's just testing your patience is all it's doing. Is all it's doing, that's for sure. I'm going to get a Forstner bit and drill down through here, and hopefully that'll open that up so we can dump out that rice. Okay, I'm going to grind this flat first. I'll be back. Anyway, apparently my video card filled up and the camera shut off and I didn't realize it. But Anyway, it's all out. And I don't think there was any leaks on the inside. Doesn't look like it anyway. The plastic pulled right out. So, yeah, I'm going to have to get some more rice because we don't have very much left now. All right, let's see if we can find our centers again. Feeling down inside of there to see how thick this is. Man, it's pretty thick. And yeah, this isn't centered, so I don't know what I'm going to do here. Again, I might just glue on a little piece of wood, and then we'll use that to push on. I was kind of hoping to expose the center that was left behind from the lathe, but then I remembered that I actually ground that all off the bottom, so there isn't going to be any center to find. The other thing too is, yeah, I hate to step on it. I find looking down on the top of this is the easiest way to try and line these pieces up. I mean, I guess I could have put it on the floor and did that, but it'd be a little harder to film. So yeah, try and get directly above it and look down on it. If you're trying to find your centers, and use those cutting guides that you see me use here all the time. Kutzall sander, if you don't have one, get one. They work fantastic. So back onto the lathe again, try and find center. You know, we have some thickness to work with here, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm still trying to line it up best I can. Well, anyway, as you probably see here, we've got pretty late in this video, and there's so much more to cover, so I'm going to have to call it here. We are going to have a last little chat here, but special shout out to the members. Thank you so much for your support, and special thanks to everyone who has watched this long, frustrating, trying video to the end. Anyway, hopefully you've learned something from it. Let's have a little chat. Well, that's it. I'm going to have to call the video here. At this point, there is still 6 hours of footage to edit, and I think we're over 50 minutes now. So that's just too long. You know, you're at the 30-minute mark on most of my videos. I start seeing things drop off, so I don't really see the point in putting up a 2-hour video. I know that there's lots of people that would watch a 2-hour video, and thank you for that. But for the most part, 2 hours is too much for people to watch in one sitting. So this will help me actually get videos ahead before the move. So anyway, I hate making these 2-part videos, but I want to showcase something next week that was sent to me, and that's for the hollowing rig. So I don't want to kind of move things through here and not kind of showcase that as well, because it was actually a pretty cool thing. All right, so anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. The piece is almost done, and it is absolutely spectacular. I really love it. So please come on back next week to see the finished piece. All right, well, that's it. I'm out of here. Don't forget to put designer epoxy in the comments down below to be entered into the 3-gallon kit at 135,000 subscribers when we get there. And of course, that's only for continental USA and Canada. Sorry, the rest of the world, we can't accommodate you. And by leaving a comment down below, you'll also be entered into my giveaway, and I will ship worldwide. So comment away, and thank you for doing that. All right, take care, stay safe, don't forget the bell, and please share my videos with your friends. That is the largest way for me to build my presence here on YouTube, and I would greatly appreciate it. And that thumbs up, hey, that'll always help out as well. All right, have a great weekend. See you next week.